So a student asked me why there is alpha D glucose, not just alpha glucose and beta glucose on your chemistry data booklet. And so this is just a very quick explanation of why that's so. So there's a D glucose and an L glucose. They actually look like this if I swap it over. If you superimpose those, these are actually swapped over. But one's a left-handed side, one's a right-handed side. And so the D-glucoses turn parallel light. They bend it in one direction, as you can read up here, and the L's go in another direction. Okay, so this happens also in amino acids, where you have the D's and the L's. What you'll have is, in nature, it's pretty much just all D's. There are some very strange instances where L's occur. Same with the amino acids. I think L-serine, just the amino acid L-serine has been detected as possibly having a use in life. But as far as you're concerned, there is nothing. Everything's made up of L's, amino acids. Okay, and so key points. The L's form the sugars, the D's form the D's form the sugars, the L forms the amino acids. There's pretty much no use for an L form of a sugar, a D form for an amino acid, especially if you're trying to produce foods. Half of the amino acids will be L, half will be D, so only half will actually be useful. It can get a lot more serious than that, so some drugs, if you're not careful about, you've produced both D and L forms of a particular chemical, some will actually kill you rather than do the effective positive work that they're meant to do. Okay, and you can stop right there. I'm just going to digress here, or regress, whatever, on why they would possibly have you memorize just information. And you can see that has changed over the decades rather than actually understand science when it's really quite a simple concept. Whereas memorizing is actually very, very difficult and of pretty much no use in the modern age. And I honestly think that is just because it makes evolutionary theory look bad. It just has a common thread to it. And so these things here, the D and the L's form, I was going to show you the Addison Wesley book, but I don't have it with me where I am right now. So I went to a meeting and they had heads of sciences there, and they were all very affectionate towards the Addison Wesley. That's what your current chemistry teachers would have grown up on. And there's a lot in those textbooks. It's very easy and simple and helps you understand science, and it's gone now. So I do believe there's been quite a negative impact on science in the last few decades. So I'll just go over a few examples of those. One of them came up quite recently. A teacher was talking to me about the arguments that fire it matches Mrs. GREN, which it does. And that's because Mrs. GREN is an inferior theory. Cell theory is what you should be taught. Something is living because it's a cell, and cells come from cells. Which causes problems with evolution, because where did the first cell come from? You can't just have life come out of nowhere. Okay, and so that is one example of being taught an inferior theory that is doesn't make any sense. The cell theory is simple, and it does all the explaining. You don't have to ask whether a virus is living or not. It's not a cell. You don't have to ask whether fire is living or not. It's not a cell. You don't have to analyze all these different concepts such as growth and reproduction, respiration, all that sort of stuff. Is it a cell or is it not? And so that is a regression in science. Another one that's really quite concerning is the extrapolation and lack of evidence that evolution encourages. You can see from chemistry that when you extrapolate, we've never got to 0 degrees Celsius. Even when you get close to zero, and that's not extrapolating, because we get close to it, you can see water go straight through a cup. Water just climbs up and goes over a cup. So you can see some pretty crazy things happen when you go to the extreme ends. And so in science, we always repeat our observations and have evidence for what we're saying. And we never extrapolate because we don't know what's going on when we extrapolate. And so going into billions of years, you cannot be 100% sure of how elements and atoms work over billions of years. They could interact and degrade, maybe with radioactivity, in ways that you didn't think. And so that is quite a danger. Plus, you can't repeat it, and you weren't there to see it. And so you are definitely extrapolating and could be very, very wrong. Okay, so science should be on observation and should be on interpolation. Okay, the next thing that I probably dislike the least is in Addison Wesley. It's a very simple concept, entropy. That was taught to your chemistry teachers, and we're not teaching that to you now. It's just that everything goes towards disorder and randomness. We have taught you enthalpy, and hopefully that everything goes towards a loss of energy. But look how simple this formula is. You already know it, enthalpy. Just adding randomness, and that's T for temperature. That little simple formula can basically tell you every single reaction, whether it will occur or not. And obviously entropy is an issue for biology because everything in this world tends towards losing energy and becoming random, which is not what evolution likes. So another one, this is slightly getting off, but this delves into entropy and why entropy means that natural selection can't be a process for evolution. So evolution has no mechanism to actually work because what you have is you have a massive increase in biodiversity and increase in species, if you like, but the original genes, all these individuals will have a less genetic pool from the original plant. So we're not increasing, we're actually decreasing in genetic diversity, even though there is creation of more species. So natural selection doesn't work for increasing complexity of organisms. Last one here, this one here. So the whole entropy enthalpy thing is the foundation for understanding that things don't become more complex. And then you need to really understand, you could Google Luca last universal common ancestor, the degree of complexity that must be present for life to reproduce is inconceivable. Try and throw one of these into your computer modeling. 9 billion years is simply not enough. 9 billion to the power of 9 billion is simply not enough. It's inconceivable, the complexity that must be present in order for an organism to be able to reproduce. And even the most insignificant system will cause death. Okay, and so there we go, evolution. I don't care if you're an atheist. My father was an atheist with a PhD in marine biology. He didn't believe in evolution. Smartest guy I ever met at the time, or maybe ever met at uni. He was an atheist, didn't believe in evolution. I just think you need to accept that evolution is not good science and is not helping us understand some very it's actually causing us to lose some very fundamental understandings in science. All right, so I'm hopefully removing that stone and clearing your thinking so you can be a better scientist. All right, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.